I remember the exact humidity of that night. It was late September in Austin, the kind of heat that clings to your skin like a second layer, heavy and suffocating. I was standing in the back of a renovated warehouse on the east side, holding a glass of lukewarm Prosecco that I hadn't taken a sip of in 20 minutes. The room was vibrating with that specific frequency of performative success. Indie pop blasting, the clinking of glasses, the roar of laughter that felt just a little too loud to be real. Everyone was looking at her. Sarah. She was standing on a makeshift stage, illuminated by warm Edison bulbs, wearing a dress I had helped her pick out 3 weeks ago. She looked radiant. She looked like a visionary. She was holding a microphone in one hand and a bottle of serum in the other. A heavy, amber glass bottle with a minimalist cream label. "I just want to thank you all for coming," Sarah said, her voice catching with an emotion that, to anyone else, sounded like gratitude. To me, it sounded like a finely rehearsed lie. Creating Lumina has been the journey of a lifetime. It came to me in a dream, really. This idea that skincare could be grounded, raw, and yet entirely luxurious, it's been my baby for 2 years. The room erupted in applause. People were cheering. I saw mutual friends, people I had known since my days at UT, clapping, their eyes shining with admiration for her. I didn't clap. My hands were frozen around that cheap champagne flute. I felt a physical sensation of hollowing out, as if someone had reached inside my chest and scooped out my lungs with an ice cream spoon. Because Lumina wasn't her baby. It wasn't her dream, and it certainly didn't come to her in her sleep. The name was different. I had called it Aura, but everything else, the amber bottle, the font, which was a customized serif I had spent 3 months tweaking on my iPad, the core ingredient philosophy, using prickly pear seed oil sourced from a specific farm outside of San Antonio, combined with raw honey. Even the marketing tagline projected on the wall behind her, "Glow from the roots down." That was my line. I wrote it on a napkin at a diner, on South Congress 6 months ago, while she sat across from me, eating a breakfast taco and scrolling through Instagram. I remembered reading it out loud to her. I remembered her looking up, chewing, and saying cute, live. Maybe a little cheesy, but cute. Now, it was her slogan. It was her company. It was her life. I am Olivia. I am 31 years old. I live in a 1-bedroom apartment filled with chemistry textbooks, essential oils, and notebooks full of formulas. And until that night, I thought Sarah was the other half of my soul. We weren't just best friends. We were a symbiotic organism. We met freshman year in a biology lab, bonding over how much we hated dissecting frogs. She was the chaos to my order. I was the quiet planner. She was the loud executor. I was the one who made sure we got home safe. She was the one who made sure we had a story to tell the next morning. I loved her. I loved her in that fierce, protective, slightly codependent way that single women in their 30s love their best friends when they don't have partners. She was my emergency contact. She had a key to my apartment. She knew my passwords. She knew my fears. And, most fatally, she knew my business plan. I stood there in the shadows of her launch party, watching the person I trusted most in the world bask in the applause for a creation she didn't understand. I wanted to scream. I wanted to storm the stage and shatter that amber bottle on the concrete floor. I wanted to grab the microphone and tell everyone that she couldn't tell the difference between hyaluronic acid and heavy cream. But I didn't. I just stood there, paralyzed by the sheer magnitude of the betrayal. It wasn't just theft. It was an annihilation of my identity. She hadn't just taken a product, she had looked at my soul, decided it was profitable, and skinned me alive to wear it as a coat. A guy I knew vaguely, a marketing rep named Dave, sidled up to me. "She's incredible, isn't she?" he shouted over the music. "To pull this off in 6 months. She's a machine. You must be so proud." I looked at him. I tried to speak, but my throat had closed up. I felt bile rising. "Yeah," I finally whispered, my voice sounding like it was coming from underwater. "She's something else." I set the full glass of Prosecco on a high top table, turned around, and walked out the back door into the humid Austin night. I walked for hours. I walked until my heels blistered and my makeup ran. I didn't cry. Not yet. I was too busy trying to understand how I had been so blind. To understand how this happened, you have to understand the dynamic. It's the classic fable, isn't it? The tortoise and the hare. The ant and the grasshopper. But in the real world, the grasshopper doesn't starve in winter. The grasshopper steals the ant's stockpile and sells it at a markup. I had been working on Aura, my version, for 3 years. I have a background in organic chemistry, but I was working a dead-end administrative job at a tech firm downtown to pay the bills. Every spare dollar went into ingredients. Every spare hour went into research. My kitchen looked like a lab. I was obsessed with stability testing, with preservatives that wouldn't irritate sensitive skin, with the ethics of sourcing. Sarah worked in PR. She was good at it. She was charismatic, beautiful in a sharp, modern way, and had an uncanny ability to make people feel like they were the only person in the room. But she was always broke, always chasing the next get-rich quick scheme. Always bored. She would come over to my apartment on Friday nights with a bottle of wine. I would be mixing batches, measuring pH levels. She would sit on my counter, swinging her legs, watching me. "You're a wizard, Liv," she'd say, dipping her finger into a bowl of cream. "This stuff smells like heaven. When are you going to launch? You've been tweaking this formula for a century. It's not ready." I would say, ever the perfectionist. "The emulsion separates after 3 months. I need to fix the binding agent. And I need more capital for the branding. I don't want to launch half-baked." "You overthink everything," she would sigh, pouring more wine. "You just need to sell the saison vibe. People buy the story, not the chemical bond, nerd." I laughed. I thought she was just being supportive in her aggressive way. I thought she admired my dedication. I started sharing everything with her. I showed her my business plan. I showed her the mood boards. I shared my Google Drive folder with her because she offered to proofread the copy for the website I was building. I took her to the meetings with the glass supplier because she said she wanted to learn. I essentially handed her the blueprint to my life. The shift happened about 4 months before the launch party. Sarah stopped coming over as much. She said she was busy with a big freelance project. She was vague about it. But Sarah was always vague about work, so I didn't think much of it. When we did hang out, she asked oddly specific questions. "Where did you say you were getting that prickly pear oil again? The one with the high vitamin E content?" Roger's Family Farms, I said, checking my spreadsheet. Why? Just curious. You said the other ones were too oily, right? Yeah. Roger's is the only one cold, pressing it correctly. I gave her the keys to the castle. I gave her the map. I gave her the combination to the safe. 2 months later, I told her I was finally ready to incorporate. I had saved up the money for the LLC filing and the trademark. That's amazing, Liv, she said over the phone. Her voice sounded tight. Hey, let's get dinner next week to celebrate. I have some news too. That dinner never happened. She canceled. Then she ghosted me for 3 weeks. I was worried. I went to her apartment, but she wasn't there. I thought she was in trouble. Then, I saw the Instagram post. A teaser image. A silhouette of a bottle. The caption. Something revolutionary is coming. Rooted in nature, backed by science. Lumina coming soon. My stomach dropped. It looked familiar, but I told myself I was being paranoid. There are a million skincare brands. Then came the launch invites. I got one via email. A generic blast. Join us to celebrate the launch of Lumina, founded by Sarah Jenkins. I stared at the screen for an hour. I called her. Straight to voicemail. I texted her. Sarah, what is this? No reply. I went to the party because I had to know. I had to see it with my own eyes. And standing there, seeing my fonts, my bottle shape, hearing my words coming out of her mouth, it broke something fundamental in me. It wasn't just the business. It was the realization that while I was building a future for myself, she was taking notes on how to steal it. The morning after the party, the depression hit. It wasn't the sad, crying kind. It was the heavy, gray, unable to move kind. I called in sick to my day job. I sat on my floor surrounded by my prototypes. They looked like garbage now. They looked like cheap knockoffs of the real things Sarah had just launched, even though mine were the originals. She had beaten me to market. In business, that's everything. If I launched now, I would look like the copycat. She had the PR contacts. She had the social media following. She had the narrative. I was dead in the water. My phone rang 3 days later. It was Sarah. I stared at the name on the screen. The audacity took my breath away. I answered, my hand shaking. Liv. Her voice was bright, breezy. Oh my God, I'm so sorry I haven't called. It's been crazy. Did you come to the launch? I thought I saw you, but it was such a whirlwind. I was there, I said. My voice was flat. It was amazing, right? We sold out of the first batch in 2 hours online. Can you believe it? Sarah, I said. It's my product. Silence. The line went dead quiet. Then, a little laugh. A nervous, condescending laugh. What do you mean? The formula. The bottle. The suppliers. The name. Lumina is a synonym for aura. You used my marketing copy. You stole my business. Her tone changed instantly. The breeziness vanished, replaced by a cold, sharp edge I had never heard directed at me. Wow, she said. I thought you might be jealous, but I didn't think you'd be delusional. Delusional. I gripped the phone. I have the timestamps on the Google Drive folder. Sarah. I have the emails where I sent you the vendor list. Liv, listen to yourself, she snapped. IDs are cheap. Execution is everything. You were sitting on that idea for years. You were never going to launch it. You were too scared. I took a vague concept and made it real. I built this. I did the work. You were just tinkering. You used my exact formula, I whispered. I tweaked it, she said dismissively. It's not patented. And honestly, you should be happy for me. I'm your best friend. If you really cared about this idea, you would have done something with it. I did it a favor by bringing it to the world. The gaslighting was so precise, so masterful, it almost worked. For a second, I wondered if she was right. Was I just bitter? Was I too slow? I'm not happy for you, I said. And we aren't friends. Fine, she said. Be that way. Stay bitter, Olivia. It's why you're still in that apartment, and I'm on the cover of Austin Monthly next week. She hung up. I sat there in silence. The friendship was over. The business was gone. I had lost everything in one stroke. But then, something strange happened. The anger, which had been hot and explosive, cooled down into something hard and dense. It settled in my gut like a stone. She was right about one thing. Execution is everything. But she was wrong about the rest. She thought she had stolen the magic. She didn't realize that the magic wasn't in the Google Drive folder. The magic was in the years of failure she hadn't witnessed. The magic was in the nuance she didn't have the patience to learn. I stood up. I went to the bathroom and washed my face. I looked at myself in the mirror. I looked tired. I looked older. But my eyes were clear. I wasn't going to sue her. I didn't have the money for a legal battle, and she knew it. I wasn't going to blast her on social media. She would spin it as me being a jealous, unsupportive friend, and she had the audience to drown me out. No, I was going to wait. Because I knew something Sarah didn't. I knew that the preservative system I had designed was extremely temperamental. It required a specific temperature control during the emulsification process. A step I kept in my head, not in the drive. Because it was intuitive to me after 50 failed batches. If she was using my formula from the notes, but using a contract manufacturer to mass produce it quickly, she was missing the step. It would take about 3 months, maybe 4. But eventually, those beautiful amber bottles sitting on bathroom counters all over Texas were going to turn. They were going to separate. And they were going to smell like rancid oil. I went back to my kitchen. I packed up the Aura prototypes. I put them in a box. Then, I opened a new notebook. I wasn't going to make skincare anymore. That dream was tainted. It smelled like her perfume. But I was still a chemist. I was still a creator. I started writing a new plan. Not for a product, but for a service. A consultancy for sustainable sourcing. I would become the gatekeeper. I would work with the farmers directly. The ones I had spent 3 years building relationships with. I would lock down the supply of the high-grade ingredients that brands like Lumina needed. I would build a wall around the garden she was trying to loot. And then, I would watch. The next 4 months were a study in discipline. I unfollowed Sarah on everything, but I didn't block her. I needed to see. I treated her social media feed like an intelligence report. It was painful at first. Lumina was everywhere. She was featured in local magazines. She did a pop-up shop on South Congress that had a line around the block. Influencers I admired were posting stories holding the bottle, raving about the glow. Every time I saw her smiling face, I felt a spike of adrenaline. But I channeled it. I worked harder than I ever had in my life. I quit my administrative job and took a risk. I used my remaining savings to fly down to the farms in South Texas and Mexico that I had been researching for years. I met with the Rogers family. I met with the Aloe growers. I sat on their porches, drank their coffee, and spoke to them, not as a buyer trying to squeeze a margin, but as a partner. I told them the truth. I told them about the importance of soil integrity and long-term contracts. I set up Source and Soil, a boutique sourcing agency connecting high-end organic farms with ethical brands. I signed exclusive contracts with 3 key suppliers: the best prickly pear, the best raw beeswax, the best aloe. If you wanted the top-tier stuff in the Southwest, you had to go through me. Meanwhile, the clock was ticking on Sarah. It started in January. I remember seeing the first comment on a Lumina post. "Hey, just opened my second bottle, and the texture is weird. It's kind of chunky." The comment was deleted within 10 minutes. 2 days later, another one. "My serum smells like old fry oil. Is this normal? It's only been 2 months." Deleted. But you can't delete reality. The problem with chemistry is that it doesn't care about your marketing budget. It doesn't care about your launch party. It only cares about the bonds between molecules. And without the thermal stabilization step I had kept in my head, the step Sarah didn't know existed because she never asked, never watched, never learned. The emulsion was unstable. The product was degrading on the shelf. I watched from a distance as the cracks began to show. Sarah's posts became more aggressive, more salesy. She started running flash sales. 30% off everything. That's the sign of a brand in panic mode, trying to move inventory before it spoils. Then came the supply chain issue. I was sitting in a coffee shop in February, reviewing a contract for a legitimate client, when I got an email from the Rogers farm. They forwarded me a request they had received. Subject: urgent order inquiry. Lumina skincare. Sarah was trying to order 50 gallons of oil. She had likely burned through her initial stock, which she probably got from a wholesaler, and now realized she needed the high-quality stuff to fix the smelled texture issues. She went to the source I had listed in my old business plan. But she didn't know I had the exclusive now. Mr. Rogers had replied, per my instruction. We are currently at capacity with our exclusive distribution partner, Source and Soil. Please direct all inquiries to Olivia at S&S. I stared at the email. The power I felt in that moment was intoxicating. It was cold, clean, and absolute. 3 hours later, my phone rang. Liv. It was her. She sounded breathless, stressed, the breezy, "I'm on a magazine cover" tone was gone. "Hello, Sarah," I said. I didn't sound angry anymore. I sounded busy. "Liv. Look, I know things are weird between us. And I know I was harsh last time we spoke. I've been under so much pressure." "What do you want, Sarah?" "I need a favor. A huge favor. I'm trying to source oil from Rogers Farms, and they're telling me I have to go through you." Is this your new thing?" "It is." "Okay, well, that's great." "Good for you. Look, I'm in a bind. My current batches, well, the manufacturer screwed up. They used a low-grade carrier oil, and it's affecting the shelf life. I need the Rogers oil to stabilize the next run. I need 50 gallons, like yesterday. Can you sign off on it? I'll pay a premium." She was lying again. The manufacturer didn't screw up. She did. She was using my formula without understanding it. But she still thought she could charm me. She still thought she could snap her fingers, and I would revert to being her sidekick, her fixer. "I can't do that, Sarah," I said calmly. What? Why? I said I'd pay. We're allocated for the next 2 quarters. The harvest was small this year. All the oil is spoken for by my clients. Who are your clients? She snapped. I'm Lumina. We're the hottest brand in Austin right now. My clients are brands that respect the chemistry, I said. And brands that don't steal from their friends. Silence. Heavy, suffocating silence. Are you doing this to punish me? She hissed. Her voice was shaking now. You are. You petty little. You're destroying my business on purpose. I didn't destroy anything, I said. You built a house on sand, Sarah. You stole a blueprint you couldn't read. The oil separating in your bottles. That's not the manufacturer. That's lack of heat shock stabilization. You skipped step 4 because it takes 6 hours, and you wanted to be done in 2. I heard a sharp intake of breath. She realized, in that moment, that I knew exactly what was happening. She realized that I had been the expert all along. Liv, she said, her voice cracking. She started to cry. It sounded real this time. Liv, please. I have investors. I have a loan. If I can't fulfill these orders with good product, I'm going to lose everything. I'm already getting chargebacks. People are posting TikToks about the smell. I'm drowning. Please, just help me this one time. For old time's sake. I'll give you credit. I'll make you a co-founder. I closed my eyes. I thought about the 10 years of friendship. I thought about the nights we ordered pizza and talked about boys. I thought about the time she held my hand at my grandmother's funeral. A part of me, the old Olivia, the pleaser, the doormat, wanted to say yes. It would be so easy to save her. I could fix her formula in an afternoon. I could release the oil. We could be partners. But then I remembered the launch party. I remembered her telling me I was delusional. I remembered her saying, you were just tinkering. She didn't want me. She wanted my utility. She wanted my brain to fix her mess so she could go back to being the star. I can't help you, I said. You mean you won't? I mean I won't, I corrected. Goodbye, Sarah. If you hang up, I will never forgive you, she screamed. I will hate you forever. That's fine, I said. I don't need your forgiveness. And I don't need your friendship. I pressed the red button. I sat there for a long time. My hands weren't shaking. I took a sip of my coffee. It was cold, but it tasted good. The fallout was fast and ugly. Lumina imploded within 2 months. The mold scandal. It wasn't mold, it was oxidation. But the internet doesn't care about nuance, went viral. She had to issue a recall. She couldn't refund everyone because she had spent the money on PR and parties. She declared bankruptcy. I didn't gloat. I didn't post about it. I just kept working. 6 months later, I was walking down South Congress. It was spring again. The bluebonnets were out. I saw her. She was working at a high-end boutique, folding sweaters. She looked thinner, tired. The sparkle was gone. She looked up as I walked past the window. Our eyes locked through the glass. Time seemed to suspend. I saw the anger in her eyes, but also the shame. I saw the question. Was it worth it? I didn't stop. I didn't wave. I didn't smile. I just kept walking. I realized then that my revenge wasn't the bankruptcy. It wasn't the failure of her brand. My revenge was that I no longer cared. I had taken the energy I used to spend loving her, and then the energy I spent hating her, and I had put it all into myself. I had grown. I was a business owner. I was a woman who knew her worth. I was no longer the shadow behind the star. I walked to my car, unlocked it, and drove to my warehouse. I had a meeting with a new client. We were developing a line of organic sunscreens. It was going to be difficult. It was going to take time. And it was going to be entirely mine. I realized that betrayal is a fire. You can let it burn you down, turn you into ash and bitterness. Or you can use it as fuel. You can let it harden you, not into something brittle that breaks, but into something like steel. Tempered. Strong. Sharp. Sarah stole an idea. But she gave me something much more valuable. She gave me the ability to say, no. She gave me the ability to walk away. She killed the girl I used to be, the one who needed her validation to exist. And for that, strictly for that, I suppose I should thank her.